Today on the LA Food Podcast, it's a three-peat, baby. For the third year in a row, a Los Angeles area restaurant took home the award for Best Chef California at the James Beard Awards. I'm talking, of course, about John Yao Cato of Cato in downtown Los Angeles. As I always do, I spent a serial killery amount of time consulting our magic spreadsheet on the James Beard Awards to decipher what does this mean, why does it matter, and what does it tell us. All for you, dear listener. That's coming up in part one. In part two, an interview with Evan Algorri and Andrew Lawson of Etra and Cafe Telegramma on Melrose Hill. You know how they always say that Adam Devine is the coolest guy in Hollywood? They do say that, right? Or is that just me? Anyways, these are definitely the coolest guys in the LA restaurant industry. But don't let that coolness fool you. They are serious operators. I really enjoyed my conversation with them, diving into their resumes, but also really getting to understand what makes them tick and what they chalk up the success of their restaurants up to. One of my favorite parts of the conversation is hearing them try to fit Etra into the current landscape of Los Angeles dining. We've discussed a lot about what Angelino diners want at this point in time, and it definitely seems like they just want steak and a glass of wine at a spot like Stir Crazy or Sam's Place. Etra isn't really that, yet it's experiencing a ton of success, including earning Evan a nod for semi-finalist in this year's James Beard Awards. What does their success say about LA? And what do they hope to accomplish as they continue on their journey as a restaurant? Stay tuned to find out. A reminder that the LA Food Podcast is brought to you by the Acquired Taste Media Network. Be sure to listen to our sister podcast, Takeando with Bill Esparza, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please consider leaving both our podcast and Bill's podcast a rating or review wherever you listen. I'm your host, Lucas Erodio, and without further ado, it's time to chat down. The LA Food Podcast is presented by The Lonely Oyster. Unwind at The Lonely Oyster's Echo Park Night Watch. Did you know that every night is industry night at The Lonely Oyster, dear listener? Stroll in after 10 p.m. nightly for a one-of-a-kind experience designed for the night owls and hospitality pros. Indulge in $12 handshake cocktails, expertly crafted liquid chef concoctions, delicious late-night hot bites, and chef's choice dozen oysters. More than just a place to unwind, The Lonely Oyster warmly welcomes industry professionals, providing a space where like-minded individuals can connect, relax, and enjoy the camaraderie that comes with the late-night scene. Whether you're looking to kick back after a long shift or simply enjoy the vibrant atmosphere, late night at The Lonely Oyster is the perfect rendezvous for those who appreciate good company and great food and drinks. Don't miss this nightly affair and let the good times roll at The Lonely Oyster. Dear listener, it's just me today. Father Saul is in a bunker somewhere preparing for our Top Chef recap episode. You know that he only loves three things in this world besides Emily. One is the 76ers, two are podcasts that aren't this one, and of course, Top Chef. That's his greatest love. So you're stuck with me today. But don't worry, we got a hell of an episode for you. I sat down with two of the coolest guys in LA food. I'm talking about Evan Algorri and Andrew Lawson of Etra and Cafe Telegramma on Melrose Hill. If you think I'm saying they're cool because their restaurants are cool, as evidenced by the throngs of good-looking people who you're bound to encounter whenever you visit, that's not exactly what I mean. These dudes just have an aura around them, man. It's like if the gritty appeal of the bear had a baby with like whoever designed Rick Rubin's Malibu compound. You know what I'm saying? They're rugged and polished at the same time. I don't even know how they do it. I don't often get flustered during interviews, but I definitely wanted these guys to like me while we spoke. It kind of brought me back to high school when I would crack jokes in the locker room and then like nervously look around to see if any of the older kids thought I was funny. Was that just me? Surely not. But besides the cool factor, I didn't quite realize before doing my research for this episode just how impressive of a pedigree in fine dining Evan and Andrew both have. They spent many years at some of New York's most illustrious restaurants. We get into all that on the interview, as well as how they took Etra from being a neighborhood hotspot to something Evan scored a James Beard semi-finalist nod for. I had a ton of fun during this conversation. I'm excited for you to hear it. And by the way, don't sleep on the food at either Cafe Telegramma or Etra. Every every time I go, I kick myself for not going more often. After the interview, I didn't quite have enough time to go back home before my next engagement, so I just hung out at Cafe Telegramma to do work, and as I got peckish, I started to side-eye that menu, and the Cobb salad really stuck out to me. And, I've had plenty of Cobb salads, usually a Panera Bread, but this Cobb salad just hit so different. All of the ingredients were immaculately sourced and prepared, and the dressing was so delicate but had this beautiful vinegary kick to it. It was just an absolute delight to eat. If I lived even like 2 miles closer, I think that would be like a go-to lunch spot for me. But before we dive into that conversation, it's been a massive awards week. Bill Addison put out a list of the 101 best restaurants in California, which I'm sure we're going to discuss at some point. The world's 50 best is literally dropping right now as I'm recording at a ceremony in Turin. But the awards I really want to double click on today are the James Beard Awards, which took place this past Monday in Chicago. And as I always do, I've spent a frankly psychotic amount of time consulting our spreadsheet, crunching the numbers, and trying to decipher what the key takeaways are from this year's awards. What can we learn? Why does this matter? Which ironically happens to be the central question of the first ever episode of this podcast. Why do we care about the James Beards? Well, on the most basic level, these are the Oscars of the American food world. To the extent that the Oscars recognize the best in filmmaking, the Beards are supposed to be a marker of who's making the best food in America. Of course, it's not quite that apples to apples, and so I don't really treat them or think of them as that. I like to think of them as a helpful temperature check on the health, the vitality, the trends that are present in American food today. I think of it less as a coronation and more as of a marker. In fact, that's why my favorite moment in the James Beard calendar cycle are the semifinalists, because those are the longest lists, right? They kind of provide the most data points from year to year that you can compare and try to sort of derive some insights on. The nominee phase and the winner phase, I'm usually a little less interested in, although this year there was quite an interesting development from a Los Angeles perspective. Of course, I'm talking about the fact that John Yao Cato of Cato was named Best Chef California. I want to send a massive congrats to Chef John and his entire team, and I want to send him an even bigger shout out for using his platform for a rousing speech on why immigrants, documented or not, are essential to the fabric of the industry and the city. I think it can really be forced or cringe sometimes when people use award speeches to speak to bigger issues, but Chef John, I think, really nailed it in both terms of tone and timing. If you missed it, I believe it's up on YouTube. You should go listen to it. Kudos to him for that, seriously. From a former comms professional, I was very, very impressed. Now, with that in mind, with the fact that Cato took home this amazing award in mind, here are 3 lessons I learned from spending way too much time mulling over Monday night's results, okay? Number 1, the reason Cato winning matters from a bigger picture perspective is that this is the 3rd year in a row that Los Angeles has taken home the Best Chef California award, following Anajak in 2023 and Kuyalord in 2024. It's the 4th time out of the last 5 that it's taken home this award, and it means that since the James Beard Foundation went through its structural upheaval that changed the way it gives out awards to become more inclusive back in 2020, LA has won 75% of the awards on offer to San Francisco's 25. Now, this is significant for a very, very obvious reason. After having played little bro to San Francisco for many, many years in terms of this level of recognition, I think we can say the tide has fully turned, but I think we've been able to say that for a few years now, right? I think we've had this conversation every single year on the podcast when the Beards come down. We're like, hey, the time has come. LA is no longer San Francisco's little bro when it comes to fine dining. And we've discussed the reasons as to why, and there are many reasons for this, right? Economic ones being chief among them. But whatever the reasons, SoCal and LA specifically has very much cemented its place as the state's most exciting place when it comes to restaurants pushing the envelope. The reason I think this is especially significant this year is that, kind of like defending a title in sports, I think the longer you have that crown, the harder it is to defend. And this year I was particularly concerned because when the nominee list dropped, John Yao of Cato was the only Los Angeles chef to be on that shortlist. We're not going to count for the purposes of this inquiry Daniel Castillo down at Heritage Barbecue in San Juan Capistrano. I know Bill Addison considers that LA for the purposes of the 101, but we're just going to keep it tighter to LA for this discussion. So on the short list, who you had was John Yao from LA. You had Danny Castillo from Heritage. Then you had two San Francisco chefs, Richard Lee of Saison and Kosuke Tada of Mihote. And then you had Tara Monsad of Anime in San Diego. So it very much looked like LA's chances of defending its title of Best Chef California were extremely slim. I was kind of like emotionally preparing myself for a San Francisco win. But the fact that in the midst of that, an LA restaurant still took the crown, it still defends its status as sort of like the top dog when it comes to dining in California, I think that that's significant. That's lesson one. It's the most obvious lesson, and that's okay. Lesson two, to me, is way more interesting, okay? I think it's important to look not just at where the winning restaurants are located geographically, but also at the type of food that is winning. For 4 years in a row, Asian restaurants, broadly speaking, have taken home the prize. Now, I'm aware that Asian food is not a monolith, that Taiwanese food is worlds apart from Filipino food, but I do think it begs the question of why is this happening? What the fuck is going on? Mulling this over, I came up with three possible explanations. One, it could just be a coincidence. Two, it could be a trend, meaning that the tastes of diners are really vibing with Asian flavors, and therefore that's where the investment bucks are going, is to these exciting new Asian concepts led by Asian chefs. And of course, along with those investment bucks come the kinds of budgets that get you the attention of James Beard. The third possible option is that there's something about how the judging is happening that has led to this outcome. I'm tempted to say it's a mixture of all three of these explanations, but the timing of this makes me think the judging criteria is playing some kind of role. This string of victories on the part of Asian restaurants really began happening after the foundation rehauled its criteria. Now, full disclosure, I have a little bit of inside knowledge on how this went down. I served as a consultant for the Beards back in 2020 to help them make their process more inclusive and lead to outcomes that weren't so stuffy, white tableclothy, or problematic, frankly, i.e. restaurants like Rick Bayless's Topolobampo picking up the outstanding restaurant nod in 2017 for fuck's sake. What changed? Well, a lot. The process, the way they go about selecting the makeup of the voting body, and of course, the criteria judges use when they're going to restaurants. The criteria was changed to take into account far more than just technical execution and ambition of a restaurant's food. That's how a fast casual concept like Kuya Lord could win, because the criteria was changed to take into account how well is this place executing on its intended concept, how much is it pushing the envelope in its own way, and how does this concept speak to something larger happening in the country's culinary landscape. Since that change went into effect and the Beards resumed in 2022 following a hiatus in 2020 and 2021, we've seen Mr. Jew of Brandon Jew in San Francisco win in 2022, Anajak won in 2023, Kuya Lord in 2024, and now Cato in 2025. All very different restaurants, different concepts, different levels of dining, but all proudly putting forth the food of a very specific region, oftentimes very specific regions within regions. And not just that, but their food is saying something important, something that hasn't really been said before in one way or another. And that's where I think the shift in judging criteria comes in. It seems clear to me that judges are looking for food that tells the story of California's recent past, present, and to whatever extent possible, its future. And it's impossible to tell that story without the Asian immigrant community, which since the 1980s, particularly post-2000, has surged. The proportion of new arrivals from Asia now regularly surpasses those from Latin America. And with that come first-generation and second-generation chefs introducing concepts that just haven't been done before. While you might look at what Chef Justin at Anajak and Chef Gilberto Cetina, for example, at Holbosch are doing and say, hey, those are actually very similar in spirit, the fact that Chef Justin is pushing the boundaries of Thai cuisine, a cuisine that for a long time was dumbed down for American palates and thought of as little more than strip mall takeout food, probably seems more significant to the voting body than does Chef Gilberto's innovations, given the rich history of chefs who have pushed the boundaries of Mexican regional cuisine before him. Now, why are Asian chefs sweeping the accolades and not, say, Afro-Caribbean chefs or Eastern European chefs? Well, that to me comes down to a numbers game. Those simply aren't communities with a high number of people in California. I remember even Rashida Holmes saying that when she joined us on the podcast, and I asked her, hey, why aren't there more restaurants like yours in Los Angeles? And that was the explanation she gave. That community, there's just not a large enough community to create demand for it here. So it stands to reason that there are going to be fewer of those concepts emerging. And the thing is, the judges of the James Beards are looking at what this food is saying nationally, not just in California, right? They're looking at like, how is this emerging, differentiating itself, pushing the conversation forward on a national level? And nationally, California is undoubtedly, or arguably, I should say, the most exciting, innovative, boundary-pushing place for Asian food outside of Asia. I remember when I used to work for the bid to bring the Olympics to Los Angeles, the mayor at the time, Mayor Garcetti, RIP, he used to say this thing all the time when we would go to Koreatown, and it was basically trying to convince the IOC voters that, you know, LA was the greatest place on earth. He would always hammer in the talking point that Koreatown has the largest population of Koreans outside of Korea, that they consider it basically just another neighborhood of Seoul. And, you know, as cutesy and soundbitey as that is true. So LA very much has the chops, maybe even the responsibility to be leading the country when it comes to certain types of Asian cuisine. For whatever reason, the kind of concepts that appeal to James Beard judges just haven't been as plentiful when it comes to Mexican food. And even Bill Esparza talked about this on a recent episode of Taqueando. He was saying that, you know, outside of Damian and a couple others, there aren't really restaurants on that level doing Mexican food. The reasons for that we'll have to explore another time. Probably better if Bill explores them, but that's just the way things stand in today's landscape. And I mean, think of the LA chefs who are likely to be in the conversation for Beards in coming years. It's like Kwang Ah of Baru, who was listed as a semifinalist this year. There's Deo Apaponaprat of Holy Basil, who obviously got massive accolades in recent years, and I'm surprised he's not really rising to the level of James Beards yet, because he absolutely should. There's Chef Ji-hee Kim of Perilla LA in Victor Heights, who I believe was listed as a semifinalist last year, and I could totally see her being on a list in the future. And then, of course, there are all the chefs who have already won, the ones that we've talked about, right? Like Lord Maynard Yera of Kuya Lord, Justin of Onajok, and now John Yao of Cato. I mean, you could totally see them being in the conversation for outstanding chef and outstanding restaurant in future years. When you look at all those names, they're running Asian restaurants. So there's definitely something there. There's definitely a reason why this is happening. I don't exactly know what it is, but it's a space to watch, and I think it's a trend that is only going to continue. Okay, so 3 reasons these beards are significant. 1, we've already talked about LA's continued dominance over San Francisco. 2, this continued rise of Asian chefs. And the third one, well, the third reason is more of a prediction. I think the time is coming for Los Angeles to take home one of the top awards in the next couple of years. So the top awards at the Beards are Outstanding Chef and Outstanding Restaurants. Those are the Best Actor and Best Picture of the Beards, if we're going to keep the analogy of the Oscars going. For the last few years, these awards have been going to chefs and restaurants in cities that are, to me, somewhat totally random, at least on its face. The last 3 Outstanding Restaurant Awards have gone to restaurants in Asheville, North Carolina, Portland, Oregon, and Philadelphia. The last 3 Outstanding Chefs have gone twice to DC chefs and once to a chef from Savannah, Georgia. When I was trying to come up with possible explanations as to why this is, like why they keep picking these like mid-sized cities, the first one that came to mind was the change in criteria for judges since 2020. Maybe the changes in criteria really called for more geographic diversity, and what we're seeing now is a result of that. I can't really come up with a better theory than that. One theory I was toying around with and I tried to pressure test was a more pandemic-coded one of people moving away from big cities and opting to open restaurants in smaller markets. But that theory doesn't really hold up when you look at the winners and their bios, and also when you look at the winners pre-pandemic. Regardless of the reason as to why this has happened, this year marked a slight shift because the chef who won Outstanding Chef, Jung-Sik Yim, is a New York City-based chef. This is the first chef from New York, LA, or Chicago, which I think are widely considered the big 3 when it comes to food cities, to win the award since Prunes Gabrielle Hamilton in 2018. Now, I know that 1 year doesn't necessarily mark a trend, but looking at the types of restaurants that are scoring semifinalist nods and that are taking home the regional awards, it does seem like the big 3 cities are hot again with the judges. It's been a long time since LA won either of these awards. It was a little more recent that LA got a nod for Outstanding Chef in 2016. Suzanne Goyne of Luke won the award. So that's, going on 10 years. But when it comes to outstanding restaurant, I don't think LA's won that award since the early aughts. So it's more than 20 years since we've gotten that award. But again, when you take into account what type of food the Beards are looking to award and the types of chefs that are making a name for themselves here in LA, I think LA's got one of the strongest crops of contenders we've ever had. Like, our roster is solid, as evidenced by the fact that Chef Gilberto Cetina of Holbox was listed for Outstanding Chef as a semifinalist this year, and Pajo Lee was listed as a semifinalist for Outstanding Restaurant, which hadn't happened in a while too, by the way, that LA-based restaurants and chefs had been semifinalists listed for those awards. Don't get me wrong, this prediction is based as much on gut instinct, actually more on gut instinct than it is on data, but I just have this feeling that maybe even as soon as next year, Outstanding Chef or Outstanding Restaurant is going to swing LA's way. And I believe you can bet on this in Vegas, so next time you hit up Sin City, maybe consider throwing in a couple bucks for your boy. Last thing on the Beards, I just want to hold my hands up and admit I was wrong. Father Saul liked to point out to me once Cato was named Best Chef California that when we were discussing the nominees, I said that Los Angeles was maybe in a lull, right? And I feel like I was perhaps influenced by the dominant narrative that LA dining is somehow in a valley or an ebb or a lull when it comes to restaurants. It's something that, has been discussed a lot with respect to the tough economic environment and the many closures we've seen. It's also come up when we discussed that survey conducted by Emily Wilson and the Angel, in which that select group of Angelinos appeared to be literally pulling their hair out at the lack of quote-unquote exciting new openings. But I think Cato's win in particular is a reminder that multiple truths can exist at the same time. There are definitely challenges. You're going to hear about some of the challenges in our conversation with Etra. There is some doom and gloom. It certainly feels like every time restaurants in LA catch a fucking break, some other shoe drops, be it a fire or a fucking ice raid. But you just can't deny that there's a ton of good, innovative, exciting stuff happening here, and it's being recognized on a national level. It continues to be recognized on a national level. There's just no doubt in my mind that LA remains one of the most fertile grounds for exciting chefs telling their stories in new, innovative ways, and Chef John Cato is such a great representation of that. Whew, that was a lot of talking. That'll probably do for today. One quick plug before we get to the interview with Andrew and Evan. If you haven't already, be sure to listen to this week's episode of Taqueando with Bill Esparza, our sister podcast here on the Acquired Taste Media Network. This week's episode is a doozy. Bill sat down with Gustavo Arellano, who is legendary LA Times columnist, huge food chops dating back to his day as a food critic over at the OC Weekly. They sat down to talk about why aren't more influencers, especially Latino influencers, who have made tons of money by, charging taquerias and street vendors to make videos. Why aren't more of them speaking up about the ice raids? They name names, they go after them, and they really explain why it matters for these people to speak up. They do the same, by the way, for chefs who cook Mexican food and refuse to speak up, specifically Rick Bayless. Rick Bayless, probably one of the most famous chefs who cooks Mexican food in the United States. Ironic because he is not Mexican, nor does he appear to have a lot of respect for Mexican people. He loves Mexican food, but not a ton of respect for Mexican people. And there's a fascinating backstory to all of it that involves Bill directly, and Gustavo directly for that matter, and Jonathan Gold, the late great Jonathan Gold. So a fascinating story. I highly recommend going to listen to that. We'll link it in the show notes, and it is available wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, we'll be back with Evan and Andrew right after the break. Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under two conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day, I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega 6-3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. Okay, so who do we have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Evan Algorri, chef and partner at Etra.
I'm Andrew Lawson, GM and partner here at Etra and Cafe Telegramma.
That's right, Cafe Telegramma also.
Of course, Cafe Telegramma.
Yes.
Can't forget Cafe Telegramma.
No.
So, icebreaker question for you both. I'm not going to give you the ones we usually do because that would be too easy. Evan, when was the last time you had fast food and what was it?
Oh, dude. Okay, so what constitutes fast food? So
that's in the eye of the beholder, I think.
I live down the street from Pine Burger. Pine Burger is like fast food adjacent.
That doesn't count.
Pine Burger's like a one-time-a-week thing.
But that's like a classic restaurant, though.
Sure.
That's not like, I'm talking like, when was the last time you fucked up like a sourdough Jack in the Box melt or something?
Oh, it's been a long time since I fucked up a sourdough. What a Jack melt, but In-N-Out is a regular occurrence for sure.
Oh, nice, that's good.
Yes.
Andrew, how about you?
I mean, I was gonna say the same thing. I'm an In-N-Out guy. 2 weeks ago, on the way home from work.
Yeah.
If I like get out of here, well, I guess In-N-Out's open till 2, so I'll like if I leave here like midnight every once in a while, I'll stop at the Universal one, and I'm always like go inside and not the drive-through guy.
Yeah.
So you see, midnight, 12:30, and Universal is always a good crowd.
I don't understand why people don't go in more often.
It's like 2 times faster than waiting
Yeah,
at
it's
the
pro
drive-through.
move.
Yeah.
And then your car doesn't smell afterwards.
Exactly. I hate eating in my
I can't
car,
do
too.
it. Yeah,
It's
I
just
can't
like
do
I
it.
feel like it's never. I always spill something on myself or on the car.
100%.
It's horrible.
100%.
Yeah. Well, you guys are both from Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm from Pasadena.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Studio City.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as born and bred LA kids, what's one restaurant you grew up going to that you're a little ashamed of?
We talked about this a little. All the restaurants that I grew up going to, Pasadena is like kind of a tough town to eat in. So all the restaurants that like were childhood staples are like still staples. Like I still know the bartenders, I still know like all the servers, all the the managers and stuff like that. So I mean, there are places that I still very much love that. Like Los Gringos Locos was this Mexican restaurant. Like after every football game on Friday nights, that was like the jam. Everyone was there.
Los Gringos Locos.
Oh yeah,
sounds authentic.
yes, very authentic.
I like that
it's
they at least said
dude. It's just like it's one of those places, man. It's like pure nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you go there and you have a warm feeling. I see Omar, the bartender. He's the man. It's like.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Good noted. Los Gringos Locos. Next time I have to crush.
You don't need to go out of your way, but
yeah. How about yourself?
Not ashamed, but I grew up going to Arts Deli. I still go to Arts Deli, Ventura Boulevard, right in the middle of Studio City. I mean, the same servers have been working there for like 30 years. It's been crazy. I still think the smoked salmon there is like amazing. We go almost every Sunday.
Yeah.
My wife and I. So, and Casa Vega, classic.
Oh yeah, gotta do Casa Vega.
Yeah.
The sidecar margarita.
The best. I mean, the margaritas are literally like this big.
Yeah. That's how you know the weekend has started, is when the margarita overfloweth into another cup.
That's how it
The first
goes.
time I went to Casa Vega, I was so tripped out because I used to work down the street at Augustine in Sherman Oaks, and I went over like at 4 o'clock, ordered a margarita, and the guy takes the cup and puts it underneath the bar, and then like out comes a totally full like pint glass of a margarita, and I was like, no, let me
like
see
a
that,
Gatorade
dude.
water
It was
cooler.
just like margarita on tap. Before Salazar ever did it, it was so sick. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you, Salazar. Just kidding. We love you, Salazar. Just kidding. That was me, not them, Salazar. In case you're listening, Esdras Ochoa, we love you. No, look, so you guys obviously grew up in Los Angeles, but I understand that you kind of built your restaurant shops in New York.
Yeah.
How did you guys end up there?
I mean, for me, I just kind of wanted to move there. Went to school, college away, came back to LA, got back and was like, I need to do something else. And my job at the time was able to take me there. I wasn't working in restaurants, kind of food adjacent at Bon Appetit magazine, and made the jump. But that was kind of just like my vessel for getting to New York, and I always knew I wanted to be there, and then quickly made the jump to restaurants, and worked my way up, and that was certainly like my formative time in restaurants and deciding what my taste is and what I like, and ultimately shaping these places.
What were you doing at Bon Appetit?
I was an advertising sales assistant, and I wasn't good at it by any means. I was like the morale guy. I think people liked having me there, but I clearly was like
team player guy.
Yeah, I was a team. Good for making jokes, good for the energy of the office, but in terms of like execution of the job, not high level. So I was able to stick around for like a year and a half before I was like, okay, I'm doing restaurant stuff now.
That's hilarious. Every office needs a morale guy though. So I
mean that was me for sure.
Best morale guy.
There's entire people who have made entire NBA careers just by being the morale guy.
What's failing upward?
Yeah.
That's what's it called? Isn't that what it is?
Failing upward.
Yeah, to a certain point, and then I was like, okay, I gotta do something else. Yeah.
Let's say you did something else.
Yeah.
How about you, Evan? Did you start cooking in LA or New York?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up around a lot of great food.
Yeah.
I went to school in Northern California, Chico State. I had like lofty aspirations. I went there specifically for rugby.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I always forget that.
Of all things, they were
I always forget that.
Yeah, I can
we were
see
like,
it.
Can you?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, I wouldn't want to fight you or get tackled by you in a dark alley.
No, me neither.
It's good to know.
We've gotten close.
We've gotten,
Oh, shit.
On Western.
Sounds like there's a story there.
Yeah, so I'd gone there specifically for rugby. I had no notion of what Chico was at all. Super rural. Fantastic time.
Yeah.
Obviously, partying got in the way of what would have been a very illustrious rugby career. But after that, much like Andrew, I mean, like a lot of my friends, for whatever reason that I grew up with, were headed to New York, and like cooking was always something that I loved, and it was something that I was like definitely paying more attention to in college, doing more, and culinary school. Like I could have gone somewhere locally, but then I just like would have worked in some like probably local restaurant, which would be fine. Yeah. But like the opportunity was there to go to New York.
You're not trying to take jobs from Los Gringos Locos.
No, exactly. But I had like a couch to crash on when I got there.
Yeah.
I went and saw the culinary school. I went to the French Culinary Institute in New York. So yeah, it was like, especially being in like such a rural area, I was just like, dude, get me to New York. Like, I just want to like experience it,
Yeah.
So I was doing it. So I ended up there.
And you guys worked in some killer places. You worked at Estella, Andrew. I know you worked at Maria.
Yeah.
How'd you I feel like when people are in New York and they get into like sort of the New York swing of things, especially people who are so passionate about hospitality and restaurants, they tend to stay there because I feel like it's an addictive environment.
It is.
How did you guys end up back in LA, back to the homeland?
Yeah. I mean, New York is the best for that, and being in your 20s and grinding it out and working hard and learning new things and experiencing different restaurants and that whole life is super exciting. It also leads on like a management level, well, really any level, to, I burnt out.
Yeah.
I was, 2 years as the GM of Estella, and I was working a lot, as you do. It's just what you sign up for. And, I had some family stuff happening in LA, and my wife is from here, her family's here. And it was a good time for us to move back, take a little reset from working in restaurants, although I knew it wasn't going to be for long, and move back to LA. I couldn't be happier to be back here. But time in New York is the best.
Yeah. But it sounds like that's the price you pay. It's like you're going to burn out at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, it's hard, honestly, to balance. It's hard to control if you want to do it at a certain level. Yeah. I mean, I think, and we could get into this, like we talk about this a lot here at the restaurant in terms of like creating boundaries and structure for the people that work here.
Yeah.
But I think inevitably, like if you have certain desires and you're of a certain age, like I said, like being in your 20s and like catching the bug and wanting to be successful and wanting to do it at a high level, it's almost I don't want to say it's required, because I think that there are ways to get to a place where you want to be without burning out, but it's hard to avoid.
Yeah.
I think. So
burnout is such a hot topic in restaurants, so I'm interested to hear how you guys create a sustainable restaurant environment. But first from you, Evan, how'd you end up back in LA?
Yeah, I had no real intention of ever leaving New York. I mean, I thought I was like going to be a New York life for sure.
Yeah.
But burnout, man. I mean, I was making like $7.25 an hour at 27. I always maintain that New York is one of the best cities, if not the best city, to just be like totally like working hard, broke 20-something-year-old. You know, it's like if you have a group of friends who are in the same position as you, you guys kind of create your own like universe.
Yeah.
And especially if you're in food, there's always like food around, like people are always like cooking at their house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I had no real intention of coming back to LA. I just knew that I couldn't really like sustain a life there at that level. I was working at Boulay at the time, and then I got a job offer in DC to go work for a family friend. Franco Muscesi is his name. He owns a restaurant called Cafe Milano. Franco is the person that is responsible for my real love of Italy and Italian food. I grew up going to Italy with Franco. He's from Minori on the Amalfi Coast.
Oh, nice.
But he's worked all over the world. And he owns a very successful restaurant in Georgetown. So I went to go work front of the house with Franco. And then from there, my sister was getting married. I ended up back home. And I remember I was, 6 months later, I was back in Pasadena. And I was like, what the hell happened? Like, I was supposed to be back in New York. And I got a flight and I went back to New York. And then I was there for like another 6 months. And then I got an opportunity in LA to open a restaurant. So,
This restaurant?
No, to open Augustine in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, through a high school buddy.
Nice.
So that's how I ended up back here. But yeah, there was like no like real like conscious intention or decision. It just kind of like, and I just like blew out of New York, man. Like someone else took my bed. Like it was just like, I was like, whoa, that's
like,
crazy.
Fuck, I don't have a bed anymore. I guess I got to go home. Yeah.
Great transit. Yeah.
So how'd you two meet?
We met, so as Andrew said, he took a little break from restaurants. I was opening a restaurant. This was in 2019. I was opening a restaurant in Fairfax that unfortunately closed during COVID. And Andrew was in coffee. So yeah, Andrew and I met through coffee. I bought coffee from Andrew.
And so that was long before Etra was even an idea.
Yeah, we'd always stayed in contact. So funny, we never got together, but then like Andrew's so good at like keeping the iron in the fire.
Yeah.
Like, what's up, big dog? How you doing, big dog? And I'd be like, oh, dude, I gotta make contact with this guy. I gotta hang out with Andrew.
Is that intentional, Andrew, or were you just like kind of seeing what would happen?
I mean, yeah. So like Evan said, I took a little break from restaurants. I was working in coffee. I had never worked in coffee, but having worked in restaurants for the last like 7 years, I knew I wanted to do something and stay in contact with food people and restaurant people because that's what gets me going. So I learned about coffee, and I was able to do that. I was able to stay in touch with people that I thought were doing cool things and opening restaurants and running programs. And Evan was one of those people. And so, the proximity to that to me was very cool. And, I got to meet a lot of really wonderful people and form relationships that way. Yeah, he was getting married at the time, I remember. Yeah. And so, I would always like check in and see how things were going. And I don't know, maybe it was my subconscious way of being like, we should do something together in the future.
Subconscious being like, let's keep a lifeline into actual restaurants in case I want to go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I'm a big relationship guy. Everything I do in my life is based off of that, and forming friendships, genuine connection with people, and I think that has led me to professional opportunities. And I saw Evan as someone that had a similar background to me, being that he grew up here in LA and spent a lot of time in New York working at great restaurants like I did. And I thought that was cool. And on a completely separate level, like, he's just a great guy, and I knew that I had a connection with him. So on a friendship level, I was like, we should be friends. And then what comes of that could be, but I don't know, maybe that was my way of putting it out there. So
I love it. It didn't feel too thirsty to you, Evan? It was just like, I want to be friends with this guy.
No.
It might have been.
It's good. The right amount of thirst is good. That's what you want.
Listen, man, I'm okay with that. I have no problem telling people when I admire them or when I think that they're doing something cool. And I don't know. I think that comes from a genuine place. I think people like to be complimented and like to know that they're doing something that other people think are cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think it's a great ethos, and I think it speaks to your guys' and your knack for hospitality. It's kind of like what you're speaking to is make people feel welcome.
Yeah.
And that's one way of doing it. So it adds
for
up.
sure.
The maths, as they say.
For sure.
So what's the origin story of Etra? What's the one, tell me the one that you give to the PR people that's like the blurb, and then tell me the real one.
They're one and the same. I mean, there's like no like crazy.
There's no secret
weird
story, there's no backroom deals?
No. So we have a third partner here, Tyler, Stonebreaker. I opened a restaurant in Chinatown with Tyler in 2017. And then I'd like done a couple projects with Tyler. I was opening restaurants and then kind of like getting them set up and then moving on to the next project with Tyler. And then he's in real estate, so this space became available. His 2 spaces, and we knew we wanted to do an Italian restaurant here. Up front was kind of a mystery and a question. It just seemed like a nice place, especially for a neighborhood that was, just kind of starting up again.
Yeah.
It seemed like a logical place for a coffee shop, and it was like one of these. Andrew touched on this, like keeping in contact with people. You never know what might happen.
Yeah.
I remember like sitting at lunch with Tyler. And he's like, if only we knew somebody who had like really great front of house experience, but also coffee. And I was like, dude, I got the guy.
Then all of a sudden, Evan's the guy who's like, hey, big dog, what's up?
Yeah.
Exactly. It comes back.
So, so it's like, I was like, Andrew's gonna be perfect for this. This is awesome. This is great. So, yeah. And then, it took quite a long time to build out. We got mired in crazy city shit as everyone does.
Yeah.
Obviously like the build takes longer and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, so that's like generally like how this thing came to be. I'd like previously worked with Tyler and then knew Andrew was a great guy and like a total operator. And it's really quite odd like how well it all came together.
Yeah. And Telegrama opened before Etra, right?
Yeah. And going back to your first question, I mean, I think the thing that we don't talk about that often was that the original concept for Telegrama was just coffee shop. Like it was always going to be an Italian restaurant here, and we knew that we were firm in what we wanted to do here.
Yeah.
But that was supposed to be just coffee and pastries.
Yeah. Wow.
There's no kitchen next door. We have a storage area where we keep dry goods, but like, the only kitchen that we have here is here. So in Etra. And so that was going to be coffee and pastries. We knew we wanted to get pastries wholesale from friends and family on Hollywood.
Yeah.
I've had a relationship with them. They're great. And so, as we were leading up to the opening, we were looking at the numbers. We were like, shit, you got to sell a lot of coffee to even break even.
Yeah.
And we knew that we had to kind of like rethink the model. We were like, well, we have the kitchen next door.
Yeah.
We might as well do food at the cafe.
Yeah.
So we started with a small menu that quickly grew into a large menu. I think now we have, 16 or 17 dishes on the menu.
Yeah.
Damn, just a Telegrama?
Yeah, so,
It's 2 full service restaurants.
Yeah. I was going to say, because like the reputation Telegrama has now is way more than just a coffee shop. It's
100%.
like hottest brunch spot in LA, like top 10. Easily.
Yeah.
It's cool. Telegrama inhabits like a very unique space, I think, and it's like, it's like it can be a coffee shop for. We have people that was also the weird. I'll get to what I was saying. I'll get right back to it, but the weirdest thing about opening this place was like, all of a sudden we opened, and then there were just like people here every day. It was like central casting. Like, it was nuts. I was like, where were these people before? Like we've taken them from somewhere else.
I was wondering, what that was like, because I feel like Telegrama seemingly opened overnight. I'm sure it did not feel that way to you as the people who were here, but to the people on the outside who are just reading Eater every day,
Yeah.
It felt like all of a sudden there are all these like stories about like, oh, this cool like Mexico City feeling like coffee shop that just
Yeah.
opened up on Melrose Hill.
Yeah.
I'm hearing about it on like the How Long Gone podcast, and like they're talking about like it feels like everybody there is in the industry taking a meeting, beautiful people. So it really was not by design. Like there was no like marketing push. These are not plants. It just opened the door
Yeah.
and that's what happened.
No, man. We knew that we were going to be surrounded by like creative people.
Yeah.
Gallerists, etc., artists. There's so much happening on the block. But no, we opened without PR.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like.
You opened without PR?
No PR. Yeah, I mean, we didn't start working with Erica and Elise until, almost a year in. Like,
Wow.
So all the the initial press that we got at both the cafe and the restaurant was all organic. I mean, I think we got lucky. I think we opened at a time where there weren't a ton of other restaurant openings, and so that played to our advantage for sure. And Eater picked up on it. We met Stephanie Brageau early on that wrote a really beautiful piece. Eater, Kathy Chaplin wrote a really beautiful piece. So I think we were just talking via Instagram DM and like set things up, and like again, I'm very thankful for those opportunities, and like we opened at a good time and kind of like caught a fire, and it was off to the races. But yeah, it was a fun first 6 months. But yeah, the cafe opened October 30th of 23, and then we opened the restaurant 5 weeks later in December.
That's crazy. And I remember already like I remember people telling me they came here like around New Year's 2023 going into 2024, and they were like impossible to get a table. It's like bustling and stuff like that.
It was nutty around here, man. It was crazy.
But I mean I feel like that's so fascinating because we talk a lot about like how to run a successful restaurant, and part of that people always come back to is the promotion and the PR and stuff like that. And there's often this like feeling that it's almost pay to play, like the restaurants that can afford the PR, the ones that do well. It seems like you guys had a different route.
I mean, again, like it's we talk about this a lot. It's like anytime you could get the name out there, anything on Instagram, like it's like a completely different landscape than when we were in New York, and I'm still learning it and still trying to figure out how to play the game. But anything that we do on Instagram is really important. Anytime that we could collaborate with friends, it's really important. Anytime there's something to talk about or start a conversation that is outward, that people can see and hear and interact with is very important. So we try to do that as much as possible. And again, we were really fortunate at the beginning to just like I think both restaurants were popping on Instagram, which is cool. I think people were posting about it, which is like good and bad, because I was always, and still am always, kind of like nervous about being this place that looks really pretty on Instagram, or places that look really pretty on the internet. And then like people come here and they're like, there's no real substance there. I feel confident that that's not who we are, but I feel like it would be easy to see that from the outside and be like, it's a fucking Instagram restaurant.
It's easy to get pigeonholed.
And again, we're not those places, but I would imagine the many eyes that see things on the internet could come to that assumption. But
that's interesting. I mean, so what I pick up from that is like, it's not like you guys just opened and hoped for the best. You were engaging with people online. You were like talking to people on Instagram and leveraging social media, but it was more sort of like an organic showing up in the conversation, as opposed to this like concerted PR push where like you're reaching out to all the major publications and hoping that you get these big write-ups.
Right. I mean, listen, we made a press kit. Like we helped someone someone helped us like write a press kit that we sent out to a couple publications, and that certainly didn't hurt. And like in terms of like reaching out to friends, I mean, things were strategic, but I think the level that it was at, like, I think it was kind of like right time, right place. And it was certainly, they were both bigger openings than we had anticipated. And feel, really lucky about that.
Well, super well deserved. Let's talk about the food a little bit. So what I appreciate about the food at Etra, let's focus on Etra. I feel like there's a lot of restraint to what you're doing. A lot of pasta that was opening, especially around like 2022, 2023. You saw a lot of maximalist pasta concepts. Even like an Evan Funky restaurant, right, where it's really about the ingredients and the craftsmanship and stuff like that. It's, you walk into Mother Wolf and it feels like you're in Vegas. It hits you over the head and the food is like in your face, right? Same with like the red sauce Italian places that were opening, like Donna's or La Dolce Vita, right? Really felt like Etra was a bit of a zag in that sense, in terms of the restraint that it was bringing together with Italian food. Was that intentional? Like, what's your philosophy?
Intentional insofar as like, that's just the food that I like to cook. I don't do like, I don't know. It was a clear decision and an intentional decision before we opened. We're like, let's just highlight like really wonderful product and like not fuck with it. And like and especially with pastas, dude. Like, I don't know. It's funny, like a year and a half in, Like we just put the acciughe pasta on the spaghetti acciughe on the menu.
Oof, that's
you know,
that's
like,
I feel like
my
that's
language.
up your. I feel like that's up your alley.
We were talking before we started recording.
Yeah.
My favorite thing I had
Yeah.
here was the tonno pasta,
Right.
and I loved it because it was you didn't fuck with anything.
Yeah.
No. And it's the same thing with the acciughe. It's like we started with it when ramps were in season. Ramps are now unfortunately out of season. But it was like roasted ramp puree, fresh ramp leaves, some anchovies toasted with some garlic, and it like took on this like deep brown color and like just sat really beautifully on the plate. And it was like, I told Andrew, I was like, dude, this like, I love this dish. It just looks like an Etra dish.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do have a look here, like, and we do like, and it's restraint is tight into that. I think it's just like, I don't know. And dude, I don't want to eat. I'm not knocking anybody, but like, I don't want to eat like a bowl of fucking pasta with like a big ball of burrata on top, or like, you know, like a squeeze of fucking ricotta. Like, it
No,
just doesn't.
we did that. That was like 2015.
Yeah, it just doesn't interest me. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's elegant. It's like, it's timeless.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It's prepared correctly and appropriately, and like with respect to where these things came from. You know, I don't know. I'm kind of like big that way. I don't know. I like to picture myself like if I was like in Italy. And granted, not everything we do is like so Italian, but like it needs to like at least have a root there and like a respect for where it came from and like be prepared appropriately.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of food I ate like when I was in, I don't know, I mean, you're Italian, like,
Yeah.
that's the kind of food I ate like with Franco when he was taking me, you know, around Italy and during the summers. It was like, that's the kind of food he would cook.
Yeah.
And the tonno was like, I mean, it's a great dish. That's like a pantry pasta dish that you make at home on your off days.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and we just did a nicer version of it here, but that's the simplicity of that. I think the pomodoro is the best pasta on the menu. Like,
I remember you saying that when we came. You gotta get the pomodoro.
I love that dish.
Yeah, but there's like, and there is more going on like with these things. Like the pomodoro, it's like, it's an experience. It's like, it's spicy, it's oily, it's like, but it's sexy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's.
I mean, I don't think there's anything sexier than a pantry pasta.
Yeah.
Because the inference there is you're getting home late, midnight, a little drunk. You know, you're cooking for your friends. Like it's a sexy thing to do to be able to whip that up.
Totally, dude. Yeah, I get home late, like when I used to get home late before kids. But yeah, that was the deal. It was like pasta. It was like, and it was always like either sardines or tuna, chickpeas, like a bunch of chili. Just like, it was great.
Yeah, going in. I absolutely love it. So speaking of like that sort of like minimalist, you know, ethos, I feel like it's also very tied to the design of the spaces. They're beautifully designed. They feel very intentional. What is the role of design in Etra and Telegramma? How does it like sort of interact with the food? How do you think about that? Because I know you're one of your partners is like a big artist, right? So like.
Yeah, well, the initial designer of the restaurant, both restaurants. So he did both spaces. John Zabawa, very talented visual artist, and now designer. Like he had never done interiors before.
Wow.
Which is why I think these restaurants are so special. I think, I think that they're super unique. I feel like they're one of a kind. I feel like the wood paneling in Etra is very distinctive. I feel like the white walls and the birch banquettes in Telegramma and the windows facing Western are very unique.
Our floors, nobody puts white tile on the restaurant.
I mean, these are
floors.
shower tiles.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
It's
everything,
really
for the most part, was created from an aesthetic perspective, and obviously we made tweaks to make sure that the dining room was functional in both restaurants, and they certainly are. But you know, I think a lot of people feel in Etra like, you know, it transports them to somewhere else, or it feels like somewhere else, and that's wonderful. I mean, at the end of the day, we want this to feel distinctively Los Angeles, an LA restaurant. The way that, for example, Estella in New York feels like a New York restaurant. I always remember conversations about that, and I love that, and I want this to feel like an LA place. But yeah, listen, like, you know, there's the lighting in here at night is unmatched in my opinion. We go dark, it's super warm. The light bounces off the wood paneling in a really beautiful way. Having Evan's food, focusing on restraint, I think that's a word we use often, that I love talking about his food with that descriptor. I mean, it all plays off of each other. I mean, I think when it comes to design, like, to a certain extent, you like, everything was intentional, but for things to work and feel the way that they do when the lights go down the first time, it's like, you know, we got lucky that it like all worked the way that we wanted it to and looked and felt the way that we wanted it to.
I feel like that's hard.
Yeah, I think that there's an element of like, shit, I hope this feels the way that we hope it does. And when we turned the lights down the first time, we were like, this is nice.
I always tell people the first time I walked in, I mean, it was such a long process for the first time I walked in, and like having 3 partners with this, like everyone has their own ideas of like what the restaurant should look like, et cetera, et cetera. Like walking in here, I was like, holy shit, like this actually, like this is essentially, I mean, not with like the wood paneling, but just like the feel of it. It's like, this is what I pictured.
I mean, to me, I feel like every time I've had a vision of what I want something to look like, as not a designer, I have a really hard time actually making it come to life.
Yeah.
So the fact that you were able to work with people that, probably, gave materials to ideas you didn't even have words to express.
Yeah.
And then it actually came to be the way you envisioned it in your mind. That's super rare.
Yeah.
I mean, John just has incredible taste.
He does.
Like,
and there were like reference points. There was like mid-century, like Sea Ranch.
Like a lot
up in Northern California.
Exactly. He was like really inspired by like that type of feel and vibe, by those like houses that are like on the cliff overlooking the water. That very much like feel like this, like warm wood and like glow like this from the lighting. That was like a major inspiration of his when designing the restaurant. And then it's evolved too. Like it's evolved with the artwork that we put up, and a year and a half in, we start to make it feel a little bit more like lived in. The wood's starting to fade a little bit. There are just certain touches that I think start to patina in a really nice way. But yeah, it's cool to see the evolution. I've always thought that there's nothing cooler than seeing a restaurant like grow in its lifetime. To have somewhere that's been open for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years and see what it looks and feels like as opposed to when it was open. And some of the best compliments that we got when we opened, and still now, people will be like, it feels like this restaurant's been open for a long time.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was always like, how do we make something and open it from the beginning where it feels lived in? It doesn't feel like it just opened. You know what I mean? And we were able to kind of strike that, I think.
Yeah, no, that's cool, because I feel like when something is really designed, you can kind of risk it feeling like a movie set or something like that.
Like over-designed.
Yes. Yeah. And then it just, the authenticity, or I hate that word, but kind of like the feeling of like an authentic experience. And I don't mean like culturally authentic, I just mean like you're going to a place that's real, that's lived in, like this serves a purpose. It's not just like, AI generated in order to try to evoke a certain feeling.
Right.
And I feel like you guys really achieved that here. Wouldn't have been able to put my finger on exactly what it felt like. I wrote down in my notes, it feels like a Sofia Coppola movie in restaurant form, and I hope that's not insulting.
No,
but
that's a wonderful compliment.
No, we're like, that's nice. Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's funny though. It has its quirks for sure. But the quirks kind of like lend themselves to making just like a cooler restaurant experience. I don't know. It's like So really, really happy with it.
Let's talk about the service, because one thing you were talking about is, the way you were describing the food. And it brought me back to when I had dinner here, and I believe you came to our table and gave us some menu recommendations. And I just remember the way you described the food. It was so casual. Like it was just like, yeah, dude, we have like some simple dishes. They're they're really delicious. We're just trying.
Hopefully, I didn't say dude at the table, but I might have.
It's a pork chop, bro.
I don't think you said like, you probably didn't say dude, right? But you were very friendly and approachable, and it wasn't stuffy at all. And I feel like a lot of times when you're at a restaurant, and people are coming over and trying to like sell you on the vision and stuff, it can get really like annoying, frankly. It just feels phony. Right? And it felt really real. You were just like, this is what's good here. And it's good because it's simple. And the pitch was like, it got me, and we like sat down, we ordered what you said, the tonno pasta, the pomodoro. I think we got the carpaccio as well, or the crudo, I'm sorry. Very, very good. It's still my wife's favorite, crudo. But I've read that you have said you take hospitality seriously, but not too seriously. What does that mean to you? Does it mean going to the table and being like, dude, order the crudo?
I mean, maybe sometimes, sure, why not? I mean, I think there are rules that we both kind of like grew up with in terms of like what good service is, what good hospitality is. And so we take all of those things, we have so many conversations every day with staff and management and talk about how we want the restaurant to look and feel. And ultimately, I want this place to be an expression of the people that work here as much as it is ours. So, you know, we talk about the spiel, or like, you know, we call it like the anti-spiel. It's like,
I love that.
It's, you know, it's tough because you need to give people kind of like the guidelines on how to order, taking allergies, you know, et cetera, and getting all these things that we need to communicate back with the kitchen in an attempt to hopefully deliver this really great experience that we want to deliver, which is like, you know, ordering in a certain way. And if everyone could order that way, then great.
Yeah. And
so we're going to do things and say things tableside to hopefully get you to trust us and take a chance and to buy into what we're trying to deliver to you on any given evening. But in terms of the service, it's like, you know, the goal is to, you know, arm our service staff with the most knowledge as possible in regards to the food and the wine, and then to let them talk about the menu in a way that makes sense for them. Yeah. Because ultimately they're the ones at the table. If they're regurgitating information the same way that I would, then it doesn't feel authentic. So we like to put onus on our staff to talk about the dishes that are exciting to them and that they like, because at this point they've worked here just as long as I have. Right. You know what I mean? We've been very fortunate to have virtually no turnover in the front of house.
That feels extremely rare.
Almost every single person on the floor has been here since we trained before the restaurant opened. So they know how to talk about the menu better than I do, right? Yeah. So I'd be remiss to not let them do their thing. So, you know, I think we have certain things that are important to us from a service perspective that I think feel manicured and thoughtful without being overbearing at the table. And then we try to do it in a way that's casual and like disarming. Make people feel comfortable, make people feel like they're not going to get scolded if they don't order an entree or you know, if they don't put in the whole order at once. You know what I mean? Like I think that being able to bend now more than ever is really important. And so, you know, I think that's kind of the ethos. At the end of the day, it's like, if we're not friendly, warm, inviting, and thoughtful when it comes to like people coming into our space, then like, what are we even doing this for? Like, that's like the base level for me. I have no tolerance for someone that isn't friendly. You know what I mean? Like, you can make up for certain service, you know, errors or food dragging in the kitchen or something not tasting as good on a certain night or forgetting to put something in if you're friendly. And so we talk about that all the time. We reference things at pre-shift every night about different experiences that we've had at other restaurants that make people feel good and make them want to go back to that restaurant. So, you know, I think that's kind of what that means. It's like, you know, having the base understanding of the way that we do things from a service perspective, and then bending a little bit to do it in your way, and ultimately doing it in a warm and thoughtful and friendly manner. And that's kind of it.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like, it's astonishingly simple, but in like a way that's very clearly thought out and strategic. And I think that those are the best ideas. It's the ones that are like scream simplicity, but like actually have a lot of intention behind them. So, you know, you guys are obviously a very hot restaurant, and you have been, right? Like, and you're in a very like central part of town, very close to like entertainment hubs and stuff like that. I feel like that's a bit of a double-edged sword in terms of like clientele, it can be, right? Like, because you're gonna get people who are here for like authentic, like enriching hospitality experiences, who are like real food people, right? But then you're also just gonna get people who are like in LA and want to experience something cool in LA. I feel like that sometimes comes with annoying guest behavior. Now, you guys seem like very hospitable people that would bend over backwards for just about any annoying customer request. But is there a customer behavior you will not tolerate?
we go pretty far for our cut. Like, you know, it's like,
we're big yes people. Dude. We don't say yes to everything.
No, but that is one thing that I think like Andrew and I do share, is we're like, anytime there's like an inquiry for like a private event, we're just like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't know. We're like here to make friends and like, you know. But to help people out and like
annoying behavior. Well, rudeness is just like that's like a non-negotiable. If you're rude to the staff, like that's like you cross the line. But in terms of annoying, like you know, it's always annoying. Like I think people think they're being helpful if they like stack their plates when you're trying to like clear a table. That's not helpful at all. That's kind of annoying. But I'm never gonna shame someone for that. Also, like if I'm pouring wine for you I think some people have the like inclination to like hold the glass up so that you could pour the wine into their glass. Like that's really not helpful at all.
But it seems like you can make more of a mistake.
Yeah. Those things are annoying, but I would never like shame someone or make someone feel shitty for that. But it's certainly a hindrance to efficiency.
It's good that you're sharing it here so people can get the intel without you having to tell them directly, so they don't do that next time. Stop stacking your plates, people. That's really interesting. Well, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about LA dining in general, right? Because it feels like we're in a bit of a transitional period from we had pre-pandemic and leading post the pandemic. Feels like there were some really massive, splashy openings, and now it feels like what people are gravitating towards is simplicity. It's like places like Sam's Place and Stir Crazy that have like 4 celery salads on the menu and that's it.
Right.
Where does Etra fit into that?
Such a good question. We're talking about this. I mean, Etra is like, it's not as casual as like a Stir Crazy. I mean, we're definitely more service oriented. I mean, Etra, to me at least, I think is like an everyday restaurant. It's like anything can happen here. Like it's a great place for a meeting. It's a great place for a special occasion. We're other things. We're like casual. We're a fun restaurant. We're like pretty easygoing. But there's like a level to the things we do here, and I'm not like Stir Crazy does a wonderful job. Like amazing. We're good friends with them. But like service-wise, etc., I feel like it has like these touches that Andrew and I both like. We came up in fine dining, and like it's just unavoidable that like those are going to find their way into the service and the food. So I feel like we're like this very casual, fun restaurant, but there's like kind of special things peppered in that like really make it feel greater than some of its parts. So as it pertains to where it fits in the LA dining scene, I don't know, it's a difficult question to answer.
I'm not sure. I mean, I want to be a restaurant for everyone. That's impossible, right? Like some people are gonna like what you do, other people aren't. Some people are gonna come into your restaurant with an idea of what it may be, and it might not be that. I mean, I think we try really hard at both restaurants to appeal to the most amount of people as possible. And so that's certainly the goal. I mean, I think in terms of where we fit, I think we're a casual Italian, semi-casual Italian neighborhood restaurant with good, consistent food. Where that fits, I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many great restaurants in LA that we feel honored to be in the same conversation with. I mean, I heard you talk about Emily Wilson's, the poll that she did recently. Love Emily, love her work. But, like we're, side by side with great restaurants that we love and respect in that poll and in those conversations. And ultimately just feel honored and excited to be spoken about in that manner. So, however you want to experience these restaurants, it's like, come do your thing. I don't really care, to be honest. Like, you want to come to the cafe and have a coffee and be on your laptop, great. If you want to come to the cafe and have brunch and eat pancakes, great. If you want to come to the restaurant, I mean, maybe no laptops here at Etra, that'd be preferable, but, come here for a casual business drink, great. You want to come here for like a full thing and like, great. Like, I don't know. I think we're trying to appeal to the most amount of people as possible.
I think you're doing it really well. I mean, honestly, like, what I get is, this is the restaurant, and both Etra and Telegramma feel like they're very much meeting LA in the moment where they're at. But there does seem to be that craving for simplicity, for slightly simpler, tighter concepts that feel comfortable, but that also like scratch the fact that we are LA. This is an amazing food city, and people expect really fucking good food, no matter how quote-unquote simple the establishment is.
Right.
And I feel like you guys are really doing that and delivering on that. But, hearing your backgrounds, it's clear you both have this like fine dining like instinct built into your DNA because of everything that you've worked at. So you're bringing some of that and kind of like translating that into where LA is in this moment. So it feels like you're kind of in a sweet spot.
I mean, LA is more casual than New York, and things that work in New York don't necessarily work in LA, and we learned that quickly and made adjustments accordingly. So, and which is great because it's a different place, and like it'd be foolish to think that like something that worked in another city could translate here. And so, but yeah, to your point, like we're in a moment. I think people are craving comfort.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much going on in the world. People want to go somewhere, be taken care of. At the end of the day, they want to eat delicious food. That has to be the backbone. Like if we don't have that in terms of consistency, then like, you know, there's nothing there. Yeah. So with that, like, is the starting point, and then, you know, having something that like toes the line between, you know, maybe casual and not, and being able to experience it in different ways while still having a true point of view on who we are. I think then, you know, hopefully we're catching as many people as possible.
Yeah. Well said. Well, I mean, Etra and Telegramma have both been successes from the outside looking in. Like, Evan, congrats to you, man. But like, semi-finalist nod for James Beard this year is no joke. What's that been like for you, though, to sort of hear, to like get that recognition?
It was totally out of the blue. I remember it was, we found out about that during the fires, which were just like such a crazy time.
Because it came out end of January, right?
Beginning of January.
Beginning of January.
So I remember my wife and the kids and I, we'd gone out of town, and like there was just like a lot of communication with Andrew and I, like in terms of like what the day held, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember like 7:30 in the morning, he's calling me, and I'm like, oh my god, like.
I usually text him pretty early in the
Yeah,
morning
like,
too.
what's happening at the restaurant? Like someone didn't show up or something, like, and he's like, call me, dude. And I think he texted me, but he was like, you got nominated for your James Beard semifinals. I was like, that is so fucking crazy. I was like, is this right? Dude, like, listen, like, we make really good food here, and like, yeah, I think we do a really good job at both restaurants. I've worked with like so many supremely talented people,
right,
along the way, like all my age, you know, like my buddy Christian, who was the executive chef at Union Square Cafe. Now he's a diner in Brooklyn. Like this guy Chris McMullen, who was the CDC at Craig Young Maine in Boston. Like supremely talented, serious people, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like, it was just like totally unexpected. It was just like, and I welcome it. It was amazing. Especially coming during the fires, it was a bump, you know, a needed bump. I mean, it was like such a weird time in LA.
Yeah.
So it was good for us in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I'm highly appreciative of it, and it's just it's cool. It's like something that I've always gotten.
It's really
out.
cool.
It's wild.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, when it came out, we talked about it on our podcast. I was, you know, kind of surprised, basically just because of my experience here and what, you know, was described to me as sort of like the ambition of the restaurant. It was like, we're gonna just do simple things, and like, you know, this is what we're having. And so when I saw like the semi-finalist list, I was not surprised is the wrong word, but I was just like, you know, I was like,
what the fuck? Evan Algorri.
Hold on. Beard guys?
Let's talk to Mr.
You fucked
Beard. No, but then I sat with it for a little bit, and as I was writing these questions, I was like, it actually makes perfect sense, because in what we were just talking about in terms of like the rhythms of the city, what the city is wanting, and sort of what diners are wanting in general, it actually feels like when you look at it through those kind of glasses, you're exactly the type of chef who should be on that list right now in terms of like pushing the envelope in this very specific like way, right? So I think it totally makes sense. Now, obviously, they released the short list.
Yes.
Everybody says it's a pleasure to just be nominated, but were you a little like, come on?
No, dude, it is a total pleasure to like. That is a total pleasure to be nominated, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was seriously so out of the blue and so cool. Yeah, I couldn't be more appreciative of it.
Yeah. Okay, so when we see the Oscars and we see those people saying it's not, they mean it. They mean it. It's an honor to just be nominated.
You know what? I can't speak for, I don't know who got snubbed in the previous Oscars, but yeah, I mean, like, how many people get nominated for an Oscar?
That's true.
You know, like, dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
So, so appreciative of it.
Well, you know, you touched on the fires. There's been tons of doom and gloom talk around LA restaurants, especially right now with all the closures happening. What is the hardest part for you guys about running a restaurant in Los Angeles?
I think keeping people engaged.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I think I think that there are so many incredible options in LA. There's so many great restaurants that have opened in the last year, so many great concepts, great operators, delicious food that, you know, I think it's easy to get lost in the mix at times.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think people's preferences are changing, and you know, so I think that's really it. So we push as hard as we can in terms of changing the menu, putting on new dishes, collaborating with exciting people, doing fun dinners, going outside of what we normally do to kind of, again, start that conversation. But I think it's just that. I think, you know, we talk about it a lot. It's like taking nothing for granted. You could go to a restaurant and have the best meal of your life and have the best hospitality ever, and for one reason or another, you know, something comes up, you're traveling for work, you know, life stuff, whatever. You know, there's no guarantee that you're gonna go back to that restaurant. You know what I mean? Even if you have the best time. I think it has to be more than just putting out a great product. Yeah. Like, it just does. In this day and age, it's like you have to be better than just consistent and great. So we constantly think about ways that we could push things in interesting ways and be out there in a public way to remind people that we are here and doing great things, and you know, keep people excited about the first, second, or third experience that they've had here, or coming here for the first time.
Yeah. Sounds exhausting, gonna be honest, just because what you're describing reminds me of like the attention economy that we're kind of all in right now.
Yeah.
People just feel like they have shorter attention spans than ever.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, you know, I deal with it from a content perspective, but like everybody's dealing with it in terms of how to get eyeballs on stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's coming to a restaurant or whether it's, you know, clicking like on a video or something, right?
Yeah.
Is it as exhausting as it sounds to always try to stay top of mind?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew and I and Rebecca are here a lot, and but there's always something going on here. Andrew and Rebecca have done a wonderful job engaging people, responding to people in terms of like doing events here and stuff like that. There's always something happening at Etra or Telegramma, whether it's a private dinner in Telegramma, or like a brand collab, or like the Giada dinner in Etra, or like the Barlacote dinners that we do. Have you been to a Barlacote dinner at all?
I've been to Barlacote. I have not been to the Barlacote dinner.
Yeah, so we kind of like go full fine dining we've done 2 dinners with Barlacote now. Brad's such a talented guy and such a great guy.
Yeah.
And we have a really nice relationship with him. But yeah, there's always something happening on property, and frankly, it has to be that way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You got to keep people engaged.
Yeah.
You got to be like fun and dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, the restaurants that I see that are succeeding, I feel like are the ones that are doing that.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it's a good marketing tool, in my opinion, but I think it's also because like what you're describing is relationships. Like, you have relationships with all these other operators, and I feel like there must be positives in that as well, right? From learning from each other and stuff like that.
The best.
Totally.
The best. I mean, Evan touched on it, but having Brad Matthews from Barlacote, who's since become a very dear friend, here in our kitchen with his CDC and other people that he works with, is like an invaluable experience for us, for our staff. You know, learning about product that they use, learning about sourcing from a different perspective, you know, and not just him, like, you know, Camilla Marcus, you know, the guys at Giada that we had a really fun dinner with. It's like, you know, these are all, at the end of the day, relationships for us, like, and all of these things come about because we're close friends with these people, but we certainly learn something new every time that we do something or work with someone. And that's a huge experience for all of us.
Yeah.
For sure.
So one thing we started talking about is burnout and sort of like labor, like treating your staff right. And I feel like one of the things that we hear most or a lot from restaurateurs is the difficulty of striking that balance.
Yeah.
Being able to attract staff, keep them happy while also like running a restaurant, which is tough work. It's hard work, right? Where burnout happens. How do you like, having learned firsthand what that feels like in New York, how do you try to prevent that from happening here?
Yeah, also something that we've talked about a lot. You know, our AGM, who's becoming our GM, Rebecca Henderson, who's been with us since the beginning, who I worked with in New York for a long time. she's the best. And, you know, we both worked in the same restaurants in New York and spoke a lot and continue to speak a lot about balance and structure and making sure that what we experienced in New York in terms of how much we worked and to the extent in which we went to just make things happen does not happen here. So, you know, and that goes for our hourly employees as well. So, you know, I don't know if I've ever denied a schedule request, vacation request. You know, I think what ends up happening is Evan and I carry the brunt of, you know, what happens sometimes in terms of like, you know, accommodating and making sure that people are able to take the time that they need away from these restaurants to take care of themselves and, you know, have a personal life and strike balance in their lives, which is very much needed. You know, and part of the thing that you take on as an owner operator, if you want to run the businesses like we do, which is, you know, really take care of our employees, you know, reduce turnover, which is, you know, I'm not confident about much, but I'm confident about the fact that I'll take that back, but I feel very confident about the fact that we treat our employees very well. I think people really like working here, and it shows in the way that we've been able to retain people. So, you know, that's at the top of our priority list. So when people need time away, we make sure that it could happen. So that's really it. Hearing people, listening to people, and making sure that, you know, their time away from the restaurant is respected with boundaries.
Proof is in the pudding, given the low rate of turnover it sounds like you've had since opening. We've talked a lot about New York on this podcast in terms of like it being so formative for you guys. Obviously, we've also talked about the tough time that Los Angeles restaurants have been having. Be honest, if someone offered you a blank check to open a location in New York, are you out of LA like that, or are you are you staying here? Do you regret your choice to come back here?
No, I miss New York every day, for sure. I love that city so much, and I would like to spend more time there. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be great to open a restaurant there at some point, but I would not give this up for anything. I mean, we have such a special thing with Telegram and Etra, man.
Yeah.
You know, and we've worked so hard to build these things, and we have such great relationships, and we're on such a great block, and like, just everything, dude. I would not change it.
Yeah,
that's one no.
No, absolutely not. And I'll speak for Evan because I know that his answer is the same. But you know, we're very proud to have restaurants in the city that we both grew up in. Like it's a really cool thing. You know, when I was in New York, I thought about opening restaurants in New York and how cool that would be. And you know, ultimately, I think in the back of my head, I always knew I was going to come back here. But you know, there's certainly an immense amount of pride that that goes into the fact that like, you know, my mom gets to come here, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely, for sure.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you get the occasional like high school person that you haven't seen?
Oh,
like,
all the time.
Yeah, dude.
All the time.
A high school buddy makes our sausage.
Yeah.
No
it's
way.
Crazy. Yeah.
Damn. All right.
I know.
I just meant like randomly showing up for dinner.
Yes,
That's a whole
that
other
happens.
level of involvement.
That does happen.
Nice. Well, guys, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you guys. I'm a big fan of everything you guys are doing. One question that we ask all our guests in closing is, what are 3 LA restaurants you're enjoying right now? Maybe we start with you, Evan.
Okay, cool. So I have 2 kids, 2 very young children, so I'm not getting out to eat as much as I'd like to. So I can reference what I've had recently. They're 6 years old. I had a killer meal at Tsubaki.
Nice.
The other night. It was like, my wife and I like going to Tsubaki. It's great. The wine's great, the food's great. They were like, I don't know, on another level go tonight.
The kids were there?
No kids.
Okay, I was going to say. I don't know what the kid menu at Tsubaki is like.
There's a kid menu at Tsubaki. Yeah, so we had a great meal at Tsubaki. There's a killer place in Pasadena, which was one of Jonathan Gold's last reviews before he passed. It's called Osawa.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know Osawa?
Of course.
Yeah? Do you go?
I've been. The thing is, I don't really go a lot of places because I'm just having to try so many different things all the time.
Yeah.
But Osawa is one my wife has made us go to multiple times on the way out of town to Palm Springs.
Sure.
Because she's a massive Japanese food person.
Yeah, dude, I love that place.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So wonderful. And then the third, it's a no-brainer. Like, and it's close. It's easy for us to get to, and I love the room. I love the wine glasses. I love the food. I love everything about it. Dunsmore.
Dunsmore. Oh,
Yeah.
I love Dunsmore.
Everyone,
I just had
everyone,
this.
dude, it's like everyone loves Dunsmore.
Yeah.
But
It's the easiest
there's
answer,
so
but it's
much
that
to love about the
fucking
restaurant.
good.
Man.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's like on another level from his past project, which I've also liked.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was a huge Heart and the Hunter fan.
Yeah.
Hatchet Hall I liked a little bit less, but like Dunsmore I feel like he's
Yeah.
firing on all cylinders.
It's such a great. There's such
out of
good
control.
energy in the room, and the food is so good. Gosh, for like
yeah. Good shouts. I like those. Your turn, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think Stir Crazy, I think Mackenzie and her team are exceptional. I think the food is interesting. I think that what they've done and how they've evolved has been amazing. I love that restaurant. I think it's always delicious.
Yeah.
I love horses.
Nice.
I love horses. I go all the time. I think, talking about hospitality, I think that they do such a good job. I think the people that work there are thoughtful and friendly and great in a restaurant that I think has over time kind of like maybe had this thing of being like a cool kid restaurant
Yeah.
or not knowing what you're expecting when you're going there. And I think that they have a lot of conversations about how to make people feel great in that
Yeah.
space, and they do it at a very high level. And I'm always blown away at how friendly the people that work there are, and the food is
Yeah.
great.
I feel like that's one that transitioned from being one for the cool kids to now being one for the heads. Like,
Totally.
I feel like it's one for people who are really into food and
Yeah.
service
Yeah.
and sort of that experience.
Yeah.
It's like custody institution, like LA institution kind of thing.
For
It's
sure.
like-
It's on its way for sure.
Yeah. And they take chances. They play around with new dishes. They know the things that work, and they, get excited about new crudos or new salads. I just like, as someone that goes there regularly, having the ability to try new stuff always, and
Yeah.
also get the classics is great.
Yeah.
And I just feel great when I'm there and when I leave. I love that restaurant. And Osteria Mozza is like classic LA.
Nice.
I love Nancy. I love those restaurants. The pasta's delicious. I love sitting at the mozzarella bar. Another place where it's like, it's fine dining for sure. It's like Michelin starred, white tablecloth, but the service is like, they have servers that have been working there for years and years that do their thing and show their personality and crack jokes and have fun. And the room is great. Yeah, love
Can't
it.
go wrong with that. I
No.
had to kill like 30 minutes waiting for my podcast co-host to go
Yeah.
to Meteora.
Yeah.
I just sat at the bar and had
Yeah.
like the best made
Yeah.
Negroni. I
Yeah.
kind of was like,
Oh, killer.
I forgot like
Yeah.
that there's differences
Yeah.
in Negronis,
Yeah.
and the one they made there was fantastic.
Which is wild. It's a
I
third,
know.
a third, a third.
It's a third, but obviously, I don't know, people fuck it up all the time.
I know, dude. It's weird. Have
Yeah.
you ever read the Negroni book?
No, I haven't.
No. I don't remember who
Add
wrote
it- add it to my reading
The history
list.
of the Negroni, but it's a great cocktail.
Yeah.
It's weird how people fuck it up. Man.
It's weird. Yeah. Well, hey, you know about simplicity, so yeah.
Totally.
Well, guys, thank you for joining. We're going to put the links to all of your restaurants and social media handles in the show notes, but just wanted to say thanks again.
Thanks, Luca.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to Andrew Lawson and Evan Algorri for making the time for us. If you like what you heard here today, dear listener, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe. Seriously, all that stuff really helps us. We'll be back next week with another epic episode, but if you're looking for me in the meantime, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and even our website at the LA Countdown. That's TheLACOUNTDOWN. You can also find us on Instagram at It's Acquired Taste. That's ITSACQUIREDTASTE. And of course, our website, acquiredtastemedia.com.